Initiating agent search. Agent located.
Good morning, Mr. Brown. French authorities have notified us that the notorious food terrorist, known as the Frenchman, has escaped from the home for the culinarily insane outside Lyon. Just this morning, the State Department intercepted the following transmission.
I survived as you grilled, seared, and blackened your food in the charcoal, while the fine art of poaching was abandoned to languish. Now, I will make you pay for your lack of vision.
Your mission, should you decide to accept it, intercept and neutralize the Frenchman. Of course, if you or any member of your team are killed or captured, the Secretary will disavow any knowledge of your actions.
Well, thanks a lot. Having dealt with the Frenchman before, I knew I'd need a team that was both ruthless and fearless. Of course, my intern Paul was neither, but he was puppy dog loyal, so he would be my eyes and ears in the field. W would handle the hardware with her usual warmth and charm, while my new Iron Curtain comrade, the Doctor, crunched the science. With the team firmly in place, it was time to reconsider poaching as well as breakfast. Note. Generally, poaching refers to cooking by submersion in a liquid held at just under the simmer. Literally, I believe it's French for pouch and refers to the shape an egg takes on once it has been perfectly poached. Now, to perfectly poach 1 to 4 eggs, we begin with a non-stick saucepan or skillet filled with about an inch of water. Note, non-stick is important because eggs aren't. Okay, bring that to a simmer along with a teaspoon of salt and a couple of shots of vinegar. The acid will speed the setting of the egg whites, preventing them from feathering, thus producing a neater shape or poach. Note, although various vinegars can be used for the addition of flavor, red wine, champagne, and the like, plain old white distilled vinegar will render the most neutral results. Next, the eggs. The shortest road to poached egg disaster is to crack them directly into the cooking water. Instead, crack each egg into an individual custard cup. That way, you can slide them into the water. Starting at 12 o'clock, bring the cup down all the way to the water and ease the egg in. You want to keep it in as tight a package as possible. The next egg goes in at 4 o'clock, and then the last at 8 o'clock. Note, working with the clock method assures that you'll always pull the eggs in the order that they were put down. That means even cooking. Also, the lid is crucial. Lidding now. The vapor that forms inside the pan will make sure that the tops of the eggs, which sometimes float to the surface, will set. Now, turn off the heat and wait.
Sir? Paul, sir, the subject has been acquired.
Roger that, Paul. You are go. I repeat, go. Phase 1. Spotting the Frenchman had been a snap, even for Paul, who then trailed him from the Air France terminal to the Rent-A-Renault lot outside the airport. Since the Renaults were all in the shop, the Frenchman decided to check out a Bavarian number. A few minutes later, 7 being my preference, and the heat stored in the water has set the egg white to a soft, custard consistency while transforming what would otherwise be a runny yolk into a nice, soft, golden lava flow. The perfect addition to a vinegary dinner salad. Now, if you do not intend on eating your poachers immediately, you still got to get them out of this water. Just put them into an ice water bath, and you can refrigerate this for up to 8 hours before reheating for 1 minute in simmering water. Excuse me. Note, it would seem that the gentle, moist heat of the poaching liquid would be the perfect environment for a number of high-protein foods, which ordinarily tend to dry out and overcook. For instance, eggs and chicken, and tender cuts of pork, and of course, fish. All kinds of fish, from, these catfish fillets to these sea bass steaks to Moby Dick here, are perfect poaching candidates because in order to be at their flavorful best, they must be moist. And that's what poaching is all about. It's especially good for foods that are going to be cooked ahead and served cold.
Paul, over.
Go, Paul. Over.
Where, sir? Over.
It means talk. Over.
Oh, okay, over.
So, over?
He's at the market, sir. Over.
I knew it. What's he doing? Over?
Shopping, sir. Over.
Yes, I could figure for myself, Paul. What for? Over.
He's cleared out the onions and the celery and the fresh thyme and the garlic and the lemon. And now he's going for the peppercorns. Oh, geez, he's
What?
just stole from some old lady's car.
Go.
He's French, sir. Of course he's a Gaul. I guess that's why he's buying all that wine. Over.
Wine, what kind? Over?
White. He started with the French, and he's moved to the California.
California. He must be desperate. All right, good work, Paul. Don't lose him. Over and out. What is that fiend up to? All that acidity, the aromatics, the herbs. Of course. The king of poaching elixirs. He's making corps bouillon, and from the sound of it, he's making a lot. Ow! I could tell by his grocery list that the Frenchman was building his corps bouillon, or short stock, by the book. Since it can subtly elevate a food's flavor without covering it up, corps bouillon's the ideal cooking environment for delicate meats and seafood. Of course, as I amassed the ingredients, I realized that there was one thing the Frenchman hadn't bothered to buy, and that, of course, was water, and he was going to need a lot of it. No, corps bouillon is really nothing more than 3 simple components: acidic liquid, aromatic vegetables, and herbs. First, the liquid. 1½ cups of water, ½ a cup of white wine, any kind will do, and the juice of 1 lemon. That's it for the liquids. Next up, the aromatics. 1 onion, chopped, 1/2 rib of celery chopped, and 1 garlic clove chopped fine. That's all for the aromatics. Next up, the herbage. 1 teaspoon of black peppercorns, 4 or 5 sprigs of fresh thyme, and 1 single bay leaf. Bring this to a boil over high heat, then back down the heat and simmer for 8 minutes. And that's it. Still, I sensed I was missing a piece of the poaching puzzle. Time to visit the doctor.
Well, bonjour, Monsieur Boy.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, A.B. What are you doing here?
I need everything you've got on poaching.
Greatly misunderstood.
Actually, I was hoping for a little more.
The poaching temperature cannot be seen. This is big problem. Most of us are psychologically driven to cook only at the boil because we can see it. Look,
What did you do to my fish?
if you saw water in pot doing this, what would you say?
I'd say you boiled my fish.
Of course! When water reaches 212 degrees, vapor escapes the liquid phase, creating bubbles. There, what do you see?
Simmering water.
More exact.
185-degree water.
Ah, you had to measure.
Yeah?
See, water is very tricky.
What's your point, Doc? Where's this going?
At 185, most recipes are calling for poaching at this temperature, yes?
Yes.
So what if I put piece of fish in this water? What would happen?
Well, eventually the internal temperature of the fish would be raised to 185 degrees. It's a little thing we call equilibrium. I would have thought you knew that.
I would have thought you would have known that was hot, A.B. Okay, so what if I give you a piece of meat served at internal temperature of 185?
Oh, I don't know, something funny maybe, like, hey, I didn't order the toast.
You think that's funny?
Well, yeah, see, because toast is...
Enough! Heat is heat. This is truth, yes?
Yes.
No matter if it's wet or dry. If heat gets too high, then the meat will be squeezed into dryness. So what do we learn from poaching at this temperature?
Well, let's see. You've got to be there, you've got to watch it very closely, or else it'll move from undercooked to overcooked very fast, and it's complicated. Why even bother with poaching?
There is simple solution. We worked it out in 70s. Brezhnev understood!
Doc, I'm trying to save the world from a madman here.
Maintain liquid at temperature that you desire final food to be.
Come again.
What is perfect internal temperature for fish?
Well, 140, give or take.
Leave water at 140. You can put the fish in all day long.
But 140 is not hot enough to kill surface bacteria, my friend.
You are smart man. Okay, take water up to boil first. Then add food. Then back it down to target temperature. Technically, you can leave it in there forever. This gives the cook time to not be in a hurry, and it lets the flavors in the liquid penetrate the meat.
Officer,
Excuse me, Doc. Go, Paul.
I think we've run into a little problem, sir.
Specify. Over.
He's that phone. Hey there, fuzzy-headed boy. Looks like I got a new apprentice, huh?
He's going down. Having considered the doctor's theories, I knew that there was one tool I would have to put them into practice. W, nice of you to drop in. Did you bring my electric skillet?
In the back, but if you're facing the Frenchman, you'll need an edge. Open the case in the front seat.
Spatulas. I've already got a spatula, W.
I know, but not all spatulas are good for all jobs. That solid grill spatula of yours is fine for flipping burgers, but turning a fish fillet with that will turn it into confetti. A slotted or perforated model will reduce surface drag.
Well, I'm not too keen on the angle on this one. Hey, this. I could rock a rainbow trout to sleep with this baby.
Ordinarily, I agree, but your electric skillet is non-stick, and those surfaces won't stand up to metal utensils the way stovetop pans do. You may want to go with the plastic model.
I like the vicious little curve on this guy right here. Hey, Dick. How does she do that? The Frenchman had told me that if I ever wanted to see Paul alive again, I would have to meet him for a one-on-one poaching showdown. Not that I really cared about Paul that much, but hey, there's cooking pride here. Of course, I wondered if I had gotten the address wrong until I spotted his signal. Lucky for me, I'd figured out the secret to perfect poaching using my electric skillet.
Bonjour, my fudgy-headed friend. We meet again.
Where are you holding Paul, you French farce? Paul, what are you doing?
Je vais poursuivre le prince maintenant.
Who knew he had a brain to wash? You won't get away with this.
I already have. Le tour français, la soupe. You see, he's coming along nicely.
All right, where's your corbouillon, Frenchie?
In the lake. I just push this button right here, and a valve routes it into the city drinking water supply. Then you will have no choice but to poach.
Le cuisine. Oh, shut up, Paul. Get ready to rumble, snail chomp.
Allez, let's go. Oh, what a shame. It looks like it's empty. I win, you lose.
Not so fast, Frenchman. Corbouillon may be king, but it ain't the only poaching liquid on the block. Prepare to meet catfish au lait.
Your catfish good. My sea bass, they're magnifique.
Shut up. Prepare to meet humility. Robo Paul brought a scant half-inch of the Frenchman's corbouillon to a boil and slipped in the bass. I noticed that he had adopted the shallow poaching method, really a hybrid poaching steam method favored by the French. Paul dropped the heat to a simmer, covered the pan, and turned his attention to an elaborate sauce. The Frenchman decided to soak up some soleil. Experience was on his side. I wasn't. Oh, snap. I tried in vain to snap Paul's synapses back into shape. But after realizing it was useless, I turned to my fish. I started with a 12-ounce can of evaporated milk. I added to that about a teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning. Followed that up with a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper and a teaspoon and a half of kosher salt. Of course, I wondered if there was something else I could do for the flavor. And then it hit me. Half an onion, thinly sliced. That would do the trick. Of course, I would have to bring this all the way up to a boil before I added the fish. That was going to take a little bit of time. Of course, it won't take nearly as much time if you use the lid. Now that my poached juice was at a bacteria smoking 212 degrees, it was time to add the fish. 4 5-ounce fillets of fresh catfish, farm-raised, I might mention. Now, unlike the Frenchman who preferred the shallow method, I go for almost full immersion, making sure that the fish comes right to the edge of the liquid, or vice versa. Now, my fish would be done in about 5 minutes, but since I was going to drop the temperature in the skillet to 140, I'd be able to leave it there all day long. That was my secret against the Frenchman. Down to 140. And on with the lid. Will the toque-terror sea bass take the cake, thus opening the town's taps to his beastly bouillon? Or will A.B.'s catfish foil the fiendish Frenchman's folly? And what about Paul? Will his seared cerebellum surrender to Francomania forever? Stay tuned for this week's harrowing conclusion. As the Frenchman's fish crept inexorably towards its date with dryness, Paul continually stirred a sauce that would never see a plate. I, on the other hand, confident that my fish would stay perfect for days, made my move.
I must tend to the fish right now.
Oh, Frenchie, look at what I got. That's right. He knows that if one molecule of this liver hits that corbouillon, it'll be as bitter as water.
I'm gonna kill you.
What you gonna do? Oh, but what about your fish? What about your bouillon? What about the liver? What about the fish? Mission accomplished.
Porter, sir, over.
It's over, Paul.
Where are we?
Well, it's a little tough to explain. But what I can tell you is that sea bass poached in corbouillon is a really, really tasty dish. Unfortunately, the great white one just didn't get back to it in time. And now, well, even the nicest beurre blanc in the world can't save it. Nice texture, though, on that sauce.
Thanks, I guess.
Of course, on the other hand, our catfish is perfect. Look at that. Moist, succulent, flavorful, and what's best is it's going to stay that way for about half an hour. Oh, yeah. That's good eats. You know, Paul, we've really just scratched the surface of poachable foods. After this, well, there's mousselines, sausages, pears, mushrooms, heck, all perfectly poachable. Not to mention...
Bien mangeur?
I meant to say, good eats.